The RMS Titanic, the greatest ship of her time. She was called unsinkable, a floating palace of luxury and pride. But on April 15, 1912, she met a fate that would echo across generations. James Cameron's Titanic movie gave us romance, heroism, and tragedy through the eyes of Jack and Rose. But what if we told you that the real Titanic story, the untold truth, was far more complex, haunting, and human than Hollywood ever showed? Tonight, we journey deep beneath the North Atlantic to uncover Titanic's untold tales, the facts James Cameron missed. History loves clear heroes and villains, but on the Titanic, reality blurred those lines. 1. First Officer William Murdoch, hero or villain? In the movie, Murdoch is shown taking his own life after shooting panicked passengers, a powerful but controversial scene. In truth, survivors' testimonies tell a different story. Murdoch was calm, composed, and a professional to the very end. He was last seen helping passengers into lifeboats, tossing deck chairs into the ocean to give others a chance to float. Eyewitnesses like Second Officer Charles Lightoller insisted that Murdoch never fired his gun. In fact, Murdoch's family protested his depiction in the movie. James Cameron later issued a public apology, admitting it was likely inaccurate. Murdoch wasn't a villain. He was one of the many forgotten heroes that night. 2. The musician's final act. The band's final performance is one of Titanic's most famous legends, and it is true. Led by Wallace Hartley, 8 musicians played to calm passengers as chaos erupted. But before that night, they faced financial exploitation by the White Star Line, being technically employees of an outside agency, meaning their families received no compensation after their deaths. They played Nearer, My God, to the, according to witnesses, though some recalled different tunes. When their bodies were recovered, Hartley's violin was found strapped to his chest. Their courage was real, their sacrifice unquestionable. 3. The ship's engineers, the unseen lifesavers. While Cameron focused on the passengers above deck, few talk about the Titanic's 35 engineers below. They never stopped working even as seawater rushed in. They kept the ship's lights and pumps running, delaying the sinking long enough for hundreds more to escape. None of them survived. Their dedication saved lives, yet their names rarely appear in movies or memorials. Lost in the waves, passengers you never knew. Titanic carried over 2,200 people, from millionaires to immigrants. Most stories went down with her, but some surfaced to defy fate. 1. Violet Jessop, the unsinkable woman. Violet Jessop, a young stewardess, survived not just the Titanic, but 2 other sister ship disasters, the Olympic and Britannic. She served tea to first-class passengers one moment and was fighting for her life the next. When the Titanic sank, she climbed aboard lifeboat 16. Years later, when Britannic hit a mine during World War I, she survived again. Her nickname, Miss Unsinkable. 2. The Chinese survivors, forgotten heroes of the lifeboats. 8 Chinese men were on the Titanic, traveling under third-class tickets. 6 survived, one of the highest survival rates of any group aboard. But after reaching New York, they were immediately deported under the Chinese Exclusion Act. For over a century, their names vanished from history. It wasn't until the 2021 documentary The Six that their bravery was rediscovered. 3. The wealthy who chose to stay behind. Men like Benjamin Guggenheim and John Jacob Astor, 4, 2 of the richest men aboard, refused lifeboats meant for women and children. Guggenheim dressed in his best suit, telling crew members, "We've dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." Astor helped his pregnant wife board a lifeboat before the ship broke apart. They died so others could live, a quiet heroism Hollywood barely touched. Cameron's omissions. The real science of disaster. Cameron's movie dazzled with technical realism, but behind the visuals, several truths sank unseen. 1. The missing binoculars mystery. Why didn't the lookout spot the iceberg earlier? Because the binoculars were locked away. The key was accidentally taken ashore by a reassigned officer, David Blair. When lookout Frederick Fleet was later asked what could have prevented the disaster, his answer was chillingly simple: binoculars. 2. The Marconi telegraph operators, heroes of the airwaves. Jack Phillips and Harold Bride were the radio operators on duty. They spend their final hours sending distress calls long after the captain gave the abandoned ship order. Their last signals reached the Carpathia, 58 miles away, saving over 700 lives. Phillips died at his post. Bride survived, frostbitten and grieving. 3. The Californian controversy. The SS Californian, a nearby ship, saw Titanic's flares but never responded. Why? Its radio operator had turned off the Marconi set for the night. When the distress rockets were seen, confusion reigned. The crew assumed Titanic was holding a party. That fatal misunderstanding cost hundreds of lives. Lifeboat realities. Not what you saw on screen. The movie shows crowded lifeboats and panic, but the truth is even more tragic. 1. Half-empty lifeboats. Titanic carried 20 lifeboats, enough for only about half its passengers. But even worse, many left half-empty. Lifeboat 1 launched with just 12 people aboard, though it could hold 40. Panic, disbelief, and confusion led officers to prioritize safety over capacity. Some refused to board, believing the Titanic was safer than the open sea. 2. The women who rowed for their lives. Cameron's movie briefly shows women in lifeboats, but few realize how heroic they were. Women like Molly Brown, later known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, helped row for hours in freezing darkness, urging men to return for survivors. Another woman, Mary Borden, took charge of her lifeboat when crewmen collapsed. Their courage went unheralded in most accounts. 3. Death in the water. When Titanic sank, the water was around 28 F2C below freezing. Hypothermia killed within 15 minutes. Survivors recalled the screams of hundreds fading into silence. Lifeboat 14, led by Officer Harold Lowe, was the only one to return for those in the water, saving a handful from certain death. Echoes from the deep. Modern discoveries and debates. Over a century later, Titanic's story continues to evolve. 1. Sonar discoveries. Recent sonar scans in 2022 revealed the wreck in unprecedented 3D detail, including artifacts scattered across a debris field the size of a city. One haunting discovery: a pair of shoes lying side by side on the ocean floor, marks where a passenger likely came to rest. 2. Ongoing historical debates. Some researchers now argue Titanic may have sunk faster than officially reported, breaking apart earlier than James Cameron depicted. Others suggest a coal fire in one of the ship's bunkers weakened the hull days before impact, a theory supported by scorch marks found in pre-launch photos. The debate continues, proving the Titanic still has secrets to tell. 3. The ethics of exploration. Every dive to Titanic stirs controversy. Should we explore it or let it rest? Over 5,000 artifacts have been recovered, from dinnerware to jewelry, now housed in museums worldwide. But many call for the wreck to remain untouched, a sacred memorial to the 1,500 souls who died that night. The Titanic wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of ambition, pride, and tragedy. James Cameron brought its beauty and heartbreak to life, but history runs deeper than any film reel. From the engineers who fought to keep the lights burning, to the forgotten passengers who defied fate. These are the real human stories that define Titanic's legacy. More than a century later, the ship still lies in darkness, yet its stories continue to rise, wave after wave, reminding us that no matter how unsinkable we think we are, nature and truth always prevail.